What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Rats Report. It is time to talk about NBA standing predictions once yet again. I'm going to be doing it for both the Eastern and the Western Conference as well, starting from the bottom and making my way to the top as well. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, that would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Alrighty, so we are going to be starting with the Eastern Conference. The 15th spot here, I got the Brooklyn Nets. Now, they traded Mikal Bridges. I think it's a no-brainer. Not much is going to be happening with the roster. Maybe they look to move off of Nicholas Claxton. Cam Johnson will be definitely a player, that a lot of contenders will be looking to acquire. So not much happening with the roster. Also, again, for many reasons, many videos now I've put out why I have the Washington Wizards at the 14th spot is because they still have some veterans like Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole. They got Jonas Valanciunas. They also got Malcolm Brogdon in that trade for Denny Avdia as well. So they still got a decent roster. Of course, they're going to try to trade some of them. Will they be able to trade all of them? I don't necessarily think so. I also expect Bilal Coulibaly to, take a little bit of a leap as well. And they still got some good role players like Corey Crispert as well. So I got them at the 12th spot. The 13th spot, I got them. I got the Pistons here. Pistons, again, just I need to see it on court before, I make any sort of judgment on paper. Yes, they got some good roster acquisitions, this offseason. Tobias Harris probably adds another 4 or 5 wins. Cade Cunningham just being healthy probably adds another, 3 to 5, 6 wins perhaps. And that team definitely could do a lot more, and do not be surprised if they do. But again, I want to see it on paper. I mean, I want to see it on court first. I mean, it's reasonable to, ask for that for a Pistons team that hasn't been very good, that hasn't been very healthy. I do want to see them play on the court before I make any sort of judgments. I've got them at the 13th spot. At the 12th spot here, this is where it gets really tricky, guys. This is where it gets insanely tricky. And you know what? A lot of Raptors fans aren't going to like me for putting my own team here. I got the Toronto Raptors at the 12th spot. Not a popular choice, I know, amongst a lot of Raptors fans. This is bearing injuries, but also I'll give my reasoning why. I think outside of Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Grady Dick is probably going to be that fifth starter to replace Gary Trent Jr. But when you look at the bench as a whole, you look at guys like Bruce Brown's probably going to get treated at some point. You got the center position, which is going to be Kelly Olynyk. He's not a good rebounder. He's also not a great defender at all. So that's what I mean by if Jakob Poeltl goes down, all hell goes terrible for a Toronto Raptors team. I think there was something insane like 4-28 without Jakob, last season. So again, the Raptors' success, as much as it relies on, leaps from Scotty Barnes, RJ improving, IQ improving as well. I think having Jakob Poeltl there is going to anchor their defense. If he gets injured for at least 20 plus games, this team is absolutely done. They're not winning a ton of games. And also just when you look at the bench as a whole, right? Like who's going to be their power forward for next season? Chris Boucher is probably going to get moved at some point if they do find a team that wants to take him. So it's going to be Jonathan Mogbo, who's a rookie, who's selecting the second round. So it's not as if he's a first round or a lottery pick rookie you have playing off the bench. Then you look at their shooting guard position as well. It's going to be their 19th, I believe, the 19th or 20th pick. The Toronto Raptors selected Jacoby Walter, right? So I believe it was the 19th pick. So again, a lot of question marks as to that. He might have his struggles at some point during the season. And then again, just when you look at the roster as a whole, Davion Mitchell, if he doesn't play well for the Toronto Raptors, that bench is downright terrible. Let's be honest. You got two rookies playing off the bench. Bruce Brown's going to get traded at some point. Kelly Olynyk's getting older too. He's got some injury histories as well. He's not going to be playing 82 games. If he doesn't play, who's playing the center position? Maybe you got Bruno Fernando maybe playing, but again, I don't really like the bench, to be honest, and I think that's going to be the Achilles for the Toronto Raptors. Of course, Jakob being the main guy there as well, anchoring their defense as well. And RJ is not a great defender. Grady isn't a great defender, so their defense as a whole is just not great, let's be honest. So I don't know. I want to be optimistic about my team, but I don't see it. 11th spot here. This is where it gets tricky. I think I'm going to put the Charlotte Hornets here. Reason being, again, one of those teams that has had a lot of health issues. LaMelo Ball obviously not playing, but just overall, when you look at the roster, I like it. Brandon Miller, I think is going to be the next best thing in the NBA. I think he's going to be probably a superstar, if not next season, the following season. He's got an insane amount of potential. I love him. I think it's a good mixer with LaMelo. LaMelo obviously needs to be healthy, but they have acquired Josh Green, who I really like. Shooting guard there, can produce a decent amount of points, and he didn't really get that opportunity in Dallas just because of the Luka Doncic, Kyrie show there, and he was kind of playing off the bench at times. Wasn't getting consistent minutes. I think Josh Green is a good shooting guard, but also as much as I hate Miles Bridges, guys, I don't think he should be in the NBA. We can't deny he's still going to give you 20 a game as well, and then you got Mark Williams, who again needs to be healthy, right? So he's a good He's a good double there as well. Then you got the bench, who's pretty decent bench. I mean, let's be honest. You got Grant Williams, you got Nick Richards off the bench as well, and then you drafted Trishan Salon. I don't know how much he's gonna do, but you never know. That bench is not too bad. Not too bad at all. At the 10th spot here, this might surprise a lot of people. I'm gonna put the Chicago Bulls. Reason being is they're probably not gonna be able to get off Zach LaVine's contract. I do believe though Zach LaVine. Similar to a player like Trae Young, they can't really ball dominant guys that can't play with other players that need the ball in their hands. He's going to have free range with DeMar now gone to be that guy. So he's probably going to average some really good offensive numbers. Anyways, defense is going to be questionable for that team. Kobe White took a huge leap last season. I still expect him to be really good. But the only concern I do have with Chicago Bulls is when you look at their roster, they got Io, they got Kobe, they got Zach LaVine. They acquired Josh Giddey. I think that's a really nice acquisition. They just signed THT. Then they got Devin Carter, Chris Duarte, if Lonzo's healthy. Like they got 8 guards, man. They can play at the 1 or 2 position, right? So how are they going to find minutes for all? Like the most they can play is 2 at the starting lineup, 2 off the bench. So again, Lonzo not included. Who are you gonna give minutes to? So it's kind of a funky roster there. But I do want to see. I really do like the acquisition of Jalen Smith there. I think he's a good power forward for whatever center off the bench. I don't know how they're gonna use him, but it'll be an interesting. I still think the Bulls will be a decent team, not a great team, but a decent team enough to make the play in. 9th spot here. I'm going to actually put the Atlanta Hawks here, excuse me. Even before the DeJounte Murray trade, I was looking at the standings the last couple seasons for a lot of teams. Atlanta was one of those teams where they constantly have finished 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th the last 2 or 3 seasons, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's kind of been around that same spot. So I don't expect them to be better than some of these other teams. I know in previous standings I have placed them, but just overall considering, Jalen Johnson's going to be nice. Trae Young's going to have a bounce back season, much like Zach LaVine. He's going to be the main ball handler, main guy there. He's going to get to shoot a lot of threes, going to get to shoot a lot in general. And I like Onyeka. I like Onyeka Okongwu as well. But we'll see what happens with the Atlanta Hawks. I don't have them as high as I've had them in previous videos as well. 8th spot here. You know what? This is going to be my hottest take maybe of the Eastern Conference or maybe even the entire video. I'm going to have the Orlando Magic here. They just had one of those seasons, guys, where it seemed like everything was going right. The Raptors were injured a lot last season. They got some easy wins there. Also, some other teams as well, right? Like the Bulls had their little stuff going. A lot of teams were injured or either resting guys and trying to tank. So Orlando Magic, as good as they looked last season, their defense is going to be good. Their Achilles for this team is going to be their offense. They got rid of Markelle Fultz, which is fine. I'm not saying that's the reason they're dropping. They're dependent on a lot of their rookies. Look at their roster up and down outside of Paolo Banchero, outside of Franz Wagner. Who else is producing offense there? Please don't say KCP, guys. Come on. He's not that big of an acquisition. Is he going to space their floor a little bit better? Sure, he is. And let's not act like he won't. But also, like, where's the rest of the offense coming from? Jonathan Isaac is a great defender, but he's not helping them offensively, right? So again, it's one of those questions. I believe they did draft Tristan da Silva, which is a nice acquisition, but again, you're relying on a rookie to produce offensively for a team that struggles to produce points. I don't know about that, right? I mean, again, hopefully no injuries happen, but if Paulo or Franz go down, then what happens with this team? Where's the offense coming from? You're relying on Jett Howard. You're relying on Anthony Black. I really like Anthony Black, but is he going to take a massive leap next season? I don't necessarily know about that, right? Also, they've just got a lot of guys like Caleb Houston, which is, I believe, I want to say his 3rd or 4th season next year, which he hasn't really done a lot. So you got a lot of question marks there, and it's about to be 2025, and you've got Cole Anthony as your starting point guard. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm not as high as Orlando Magic as a lot of people are. 7th spot here, I got the Miami Heat. The reason I got the Miami Heat here is, I was looking up and down the roster. They're very well coached, and maybe I've put them a little bit lower in the past than I should have. But just all things considering, Bam's going to be good, but also Tyler Hero. But one player, and I'm not saying this is the reason that the Miami Heat are going to finish above, teams like the Atlanta Hawks or the Orlando Magic, who have previously had finishing above Miami. When you look at the roster overall, they do have players that should be improving, right? Tyler Hero is good. I don't know how much he's going to improve, but in players like Hawkes, he's going to improve. He's such a good player. Like, I'm in awe of his game. The way he plays, he played amazing. And then most importantly, a player that no one seems to talk about when we talk about Miami is Nikola Jovic. He's such a good power forward. Whatever they have him listed as small forward, he's improved steadily, right? And I really feel like next season is going to be his season where he finally proves to Miami Heat fans and to a lot of NBA fans that he can score, he can play in the NBA as well. So I think it's going to be a good season for him next year. And Jimmy Butler's in a contract year. Maybe he actually takes a regular season seriously. But all jokes aside, I do like the backup center who they also really drafted, Kelal Ware. I think that should really help Miami in terms of the drop off when Bam goes to the bench and then Kalal. I mean, again, a rookie I'm not expecting a ton from, but at least can anchor their defense for 10, 15 minutes. He's going to be a great, great player. We saw in the summer league. Not that that's an indication of how a player will perform at the NBA level, but I like him. I really like him. Sixth spot here. Again, a little bit of a hot take, and I'll explain my reasoning why, guys. I put the Cleveland Cavaliers here. I got him at the sixth spot. I just believe a lot of these teams, probably, I want to say 4, 5, 6, and maybe, again, maybe that's a big maybe at seven. I feel like teams, particularly from the third, fourth, fifth spot, will probably be about 2 to 3 wins of each other. We saw how the close standings were the last season. And that's why I got the Cleveland Cavaliers here, right? Like, obviously, Donovan Mitchell's going to do his thing. Darius Garland should be more healthy, but you're questioning why I have him so low. I just think there's some other teams that will take a bigger leap than the Cleveland Cavaliers. Evan Mobley, I don't know what he's at this point. Jared Allen, that fit is a little bit questionable, right? They're forcing Evan Mobley to kind of play the power forward. I think in today's NBA, you need to play him at the center position. So again, I don't really know what the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to do. We'll see what happens. But at the fifth spot here, the reason I got them Cleveland Cavaliers a little bit lower is why teams like the Indiana Pacers. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on Indiana Pacers. They keep forgetting how good they were with Tyrese Halliburton healthy. Forget about Pascal Siakam coming into the picture. Just Tyrese Halliburton being healthy. That offense was so good. But then they got Pascal. They became that much better. And then they have some young players like Andrew Nemhard. We saw him take some massive leaps in the playoffs when Tyrese went down as well, right? So I really, really do like Andrew Nemhard. I think he could probably take a next step and become a really, really good player. Offensively, obviously, he's got that clutching. But in terms of some of the other guys too, I want to see Jarace Walker a little bit more. I think he can do. Jalen Smith was a big loss. I do want to say for the Indiana Pacers. We don't know who's going to play center for them next season. Is Jarace Walker going to? Unlikely. But again, there's question marks around their center. But they got Pascal Siakam. They got Tyrese. Hopefully a healthy Tyrese. That should be huge. And top of that, you got Andrew Nemhard. They locked up TJ McConnell, who's one of my favorite sneaky, pesty players at the bench position, running the bench there for them. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I think Indiana Pacers are going to be good next year. Fourth spot here, I got the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, you could put the Philadelphia 76ers a little bit higher, but just considering, the injuries with Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey is going to be great. Don't get me wrong. I really do like Tyrese Maxey. I think the point guard they drafted, can't recall his name at the moment, but I do feel like he's going to be a really good bench piece for them as well. Instant offense. For the reason 76ers, I think the only thing holding them back will be injuries as well. Moving to the third spot here might be a little bit of a hot take. I got the New York Knicks here. And the reason I got the New York Knicks, I will explain in just a moment. The Knicks, guys, the center position is such a massive hole for them. Mitchell Robinson, outside of, I believe, not last season, but the previous season, outside of that season, this man has not played more than 61 games since his rookie season. If he doesn't play, who's playing the center position? Julius Randle, is Precious Achiuwa going to play 30 minutes there? I don't know if that's a good idea. He can be a good rotational player, but putting him at the center position is not a great idea. I see this as a Raptors fan. Trust me, Knicks fans, when I see this, Precious is more suited to be a power forward. I don't know if he's steady enough to be a center, even in modern NBA, so he's a little bit undersized to be a center. The center is going to be their Achilles. Overall, their roster looks amazing. McHale is going to be great there. Obviously, you got OG coming back as well. Their roster, their defense is going to be good. But you know what? For a team like the Knicks that rely a lot on second chance points, I believe they were top 10 or 11 in the NBA last season on second chance points, where they get a lot of rebounds. If Mitchell Robinson's injured, man, they may have some trouble getting rebound, but more particularly at the center position as well. The reason I got the Knicks here, guys, people are sleeping on the Milwaukee Bucks at the number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference. They got DeLon Wright. People forget how good he is defensively. And also, he can get some assists as well, really run some offense at certain points. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting point guard at this stage of his career, but he's a really good defensive guard. He's also like 6'5". So it gives him something different for a team like Milwaukee that have Damian Lillard that doesn't play defense. You got DeLon Wright they picked up, which was nice as a backup position. Better defender than Patrick Beverley, even though Patrick Beverley won't tell you he's the best. They picked up DeLon Wright, then they picked up a really under-the-radar acquisition in Gary Trent Jr. They also picked up Taurean Prince, who I think is a complementary role player for a team like the Milwaukee Bucks that can't just go out and sign free agents because they're pressed up against the cap. I mean, having Gary Trent and Taurean Prince there, just shooting threes will be nice for a team like, of course, a Giannis team that needs it. So again, the big concern I think with them would be just health of Chris Middleton. Damian Lillard will have a bounce back season. I will say that. I know it's going to be a little bit of a hot take, but I feel like people are just like, some people have Milwaukee finishing 4th or 5th, guys. That is insane. You're forgetting that Damian Lillard is going to be more healthy. Giannis is going to be Giannis. Gary Trent was one of the better shooters last season, being open from the 3-point line as well. So again, number one, Boston Celtics. Not much to say there. I mean, Kristaps is going to be out till January. Maybe we see the Knicks possibly being number one. Do not be surprised if that happens. Kristaps is, he's out for 4 or 5 months to start the season, or he's out 4 or 5 months from the day he had his surgery. So he should be back sometime in January. But again, Al Horford's older too, 38. So injuries could be a concern. Maybe pushes the Boston Celtics down to 2. Maybe a team like the Knicks take the number 1 spot. It would not surprise me one bit. Let's move on to our West here. This is where I hate doing this every single time. Every single time I can't justify putting even any team at the 12th spot because of how deep the Western Conference is. 15th, Portland Trailblazers, simple. Portland Trailblazers are Trailblazers. They'll finish last in the conference. Maybe they look to move off of guys like Jeremy Grant, maybe DeAndre Ayton now that they got Donovan Clingan, right? So 14th spot here. I got the San Antonio Spurs. I would not be surprised if San Antonio Spurs finish a little bit higher. Again, it's like I can't put some of these other teams out who I will mention just a second below San Antonio for now. Again, just strictly speaking on paper, anything can happen in the NBA. 13th spot here, Utah Jazz. They got a decent roster. I don't know what they're doing. They're going to be relying a lot on some of the younger guys as well. Is Jordan Clarkson finally going to get traded? Is Colin Sexton going to get traded? Let's see what happens. 12th spot here. I'm sorry, Warriors fan. I actually really, really like Jonathan Kuminga. The reason I got the Warriors at the 12th spot, hear me out. Hear me out. I know you guys will go in the comment section. Curry's health is a question mark, but most importantly, Draymond Green as well. Like the last 4 seasons, as I mentioned in my previous video, this man has averaged about 58, 59 games. And for the record, last season, the Warriors were 23-13, something like that, with Draymond in the lineup. Without him, they were about 11-13. So not even playing 500 basketball. So again, I do like the addition of Buddy Hield. I think that's nice. Kyle Anderson's nice. I really do like the roster. I think Brandon Podzinski and Jonathan Kuminga in particular are going to take leaps next season as well. But again, just considering where the conference is, it would not surprise me if the Warriors sneak into the 10th spot or even the 9th spot. It would not surprise me. I will say that. 11th spot here. Again, this is super annoying to do. I hate putting any other team here. I've put the Kings here a lot. Kings fans, rest assured, I will not put them here. I'm going to put the New Orleans Pelicans here. The reason I put the Pelicans here, this is going to be an extremely hot take, guys. I'm assuming everything goes wrong with the Pelicans this season. You know, you saw DeJounte Murray play with Trae Young, a dominant point guard who has a ball in his hands, and it didn't go so well. They paired him up when they now paired him up with CJ McCollum. If Zion is very lucky to play 70 plus games last season, I believe he played something crazy like 78 games, 79 games last season. I mean, that would be a miracle. Zion Williams is injury prone. We can't deny Brandon Miller's whole thing is going to cause a lot of locker room issues. He's apparently not even attending training camp, right? They may not be able to find a deal for him right away. Not many teams want to give him the max. Not many teams want to trade for that contract right now, right? So it's Pelicans are in a mess, man. They don't have a center. Daniel Theis, guys, if you believe in 2025, he should be your starting center, or even your backup center, or that he'll be a quality center. I don't know what to tell you. I don't think he will be. And I see this as a Raptors fan, guys. Believe me when I say this. The 2 seasons post-championship, what Masai did to the Toronto Raptors was sign Aaron Baines and Alex Len. He really cheaped out at the center position, and that's what the Pelicans are doing right now. They're not going to perform well, and their backup center is going to be Yves Missi, who's a rookie. So we know centers take a while to develop. One thing I will say about the Pelicans, though, they were second in the NBA in second chance points, and JV Jonas Valanciunas was a much better rebounder than any center the Pelicans currently have. So I feel like the Pelicans it's going to really hurt them on the rebounding end there as well. So that's where I got on finishing 11th. The 10th spot here, you know what? I'm gonna put the Houston. I'm gonna put the Houston Rockets here. Houston, one of those teams. I looked up their record with Alperen Sengun. It wasn't great. Without him, I feel like they played a little bit better. Again, I'm just going off of record. They got a lot of good young players, but similarly with some of the other younger teams, I want to see them perform on the court before I judge them on paper. They got some good young players. We know they got one of the Thompson brothers. They obviously got Jalen Green. They got Alperen Sengun, who I think is going to be close to a superstar. He's going to put up some monster numbers this year. Then they obviously got some other guys as well. Jabari Smith. They got Cam Whitmore as well. They did draft Reed Shepherd as well, who I really, really like, and I think he's going to be top three, top five in rookie of the year at the end of the year, right? So he's a good player. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston finishes as high as even seventh or eighth. But for the time being, I want to see them play first before I make any judgments. Ninth spot here. I am going to put the Clippers. I'm going to put the Clippers here. You know what? I was looking at the roster, guys. I know I put the Clippers very high in the past. And I still feel like it wouldn't surprise me if they finish seventh, but just all things considering, considering the other teams ahead of them, I can't put the Clippers too high. And I was looking at the roster and I understand why some of you guys are going at me at the comment section saying the Clippers aren't going to finish that high, right? So the roster doesn't look good. Again, they're a well-coached team. I don't see them finishing. Some people have them finishing outside the plane. I personally don't see it. I'm going to put them at the ninth spot here. They still got James Harden, Kawhi Leonard. Even if he plays 50 games, they got a pretty good chance of winning a lot of those games. James Harden should be playing at least 60, 70. They still got a decent chance of, playing some of those games and winning some of those games as well. The eighth spot here, I'm going to put the Los Angeles Lakers here. I'm going to put the Los Angeles Lakers here. The reason being, again, they're old guys. They're old. They didn't do anything in free agency to improve their roster. LeBron's LeBron, 80's 80, but 80 could be injury prone if LeBron age finally catches up to them. Maybe he gets a few injuries here and there, and Los Angeles Lakers are really screwed. Not even the refs will be able to save them, right? So I got them at the eighth spot, the seventh spot here. I love this because it's all the old teams outside of Houston kind of finishing in the play-in. I got the Phoenix Suns here. Yes, Tyus Jones is a nice addition, but just looking up that roster, guys, it doesn't look nice. It doesn't look nice outside of Bradley Beal, outside of KD, outside of course, the other guy whose name I should be remembering at the moment. Sorry, guys, it's almost 1 o'clock here. I'm recording this at nighttime. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, the Phoenix Suns, I don't see them finishing lower than seventh. They still do have a decent roster, but just overall, their bench is questionable. I mean, their backup point guard, I don't know. It's kind of a funky roster. Obviously, they paid these guys so much as well. So I don't know. KD, is he going to be playing 70 plus games again? Maybe. He's also on the old side as well, right? So some of these old head teams like the Phoenix Suns, Los Angeles Lakers, they're very dependent on health as well. Sixth place here, guys. I'm going to put the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant, as I said, he wouldn't surprise me if he finished top five. The reason I got him here is just Ja's going to take some time to load manage pretty much. He had some injuries last season. He didn't play a full season at all, barely played. So I don't feel like the Grizzlies want to risk getting him injured. They're going to rest him a lot. And Ja, I probably predict will probably play around 60 games. I don't think he should push his body too much because the goal for Memphis Grizzlies, should be to win in the playoffs, not so much the regular season. And they should secure the sixth spot fairly decently, right? So again, the Memphis Grizzlies will be fine. I also got Marcus Smart coming back, which will be nice. He should be healthy this season. Zach Edey will be great as well. Moving to the fifth spot here, I'm finally going to give the Kings the respect they deserve, guys. I want to apologize to the Kings fans or anyone that was suggesting in my previous videos why I had the Sacramento Kings as low as I did. And you know what? I went to look at the roster and I was trying to figure out why the Kings finished where they did last season. And it had totally slipped my mind that Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter were, I believe, both were injured to end the season, and not just a few games. They were out for a whole month plus. So again, apologies to Kings fan. I had him. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I had him finishing 11th spot, 10th spot as well. So again, I understand why Kings fans were mad. They do still have a decent roster. Again, I still don't like the fit of DeMar on that roster, but offensively, anyways, I think they should win a lot of regular season wins. And again, the reason I had them so low was I was trying to figure out why they finished so low, but I forget the injuries of Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter. So I got them finishing at the fifth spot here. The fourth spot here, I'm tempted to really put the Denver Nuggets here. You know what? I'm actually going to put the Dallas Mavericks here. Again, Kyrie's health is always in question. He's gotten a year older as well. Luka Doncic is nice. Daniel Gafford is very nice. Derek Lively is amazing as well. He's going to play some good defense. He's going to improve as well. I got the Dallas just a little bit lower just because of they lost Josh Green. I also just I don't know. I really do depend on Kyrie's health, and that's anytime you're depending on the top two guys' health being in question. Again, I want to reiterate same thing with how I did with the Eastern Conference. I believe like number 3 to number 4, 5, and even 6 are probably going to be 1 or 2 wins off each other. So Dallas finishing fourth isn't so much because I think they're worse than some of the other teams. All it takes is 1 or 2 wins. And again, talking about Kyrie's health, that's the big question there, right? So number 3 here, I got the Minnesota. You know what? My standings are going to seem very similar to last season. Minnesota Timberwolves, They did lose Kyle Anderson before people say it's not that big of a deal. They obviously got a lot of good players at the forward position. They got centers, they got Nas Reed, who I absolutely love, but just considering their roster, Mike Conley is a year older. I really, really do like Rob Dillingham. I think he's going to be a microwave. He's going to be amazing for them. But just all things considering, unless Leonard Miller hits for the Minnesota Timberwolves, he can kind of play the power forward position. I don't necessarily see it. I think he needs a little bit more development. But I do want to say regarding Kyle Anderson, he did average about 4.5 assists per game. And for a team like the Minnesota Timberwolves, they do need someone that can kind of generate assists and offense in that way, right? So I think that is a bigger loss than a lot of people will realize. Kyle Anderson was good for them. They will still be a really good team. Don't get me wrong. Number two here, I got Denver Nuggets for one reason only, Nikola Jokic, guys. People seem to forget. They're like, yeah, well, the Denver Nuggets lost Bruce Brown. What are they going to do now? Well, they got KCP. They lost KCP. What are they going to do now? So I feel like the Denver Nuggets are one of those teams. They just need anyone to step in, and particularly when you're playing with Nikola Jokic, he's going to find you. He's gonna get you some easy baskets. Not to disrespect Bruce or KCP in any way. Obviously, their roster does not look good at all when you look at it. I am very intrigued by Russell Westbrook. Originally I didn't like the acquisition. One thing I will say with the Russell Westbrook, though, and in particularly a team like the Denver Nuggets, guys, is when you talk about Denver, they don't have a lot of offense outside of obviously Jamal and Nikola creating, right? Shot creation when you talk about that. So you get Russell coming off the bench, regardless of his numbers, guys. Forget his field goal percentage, forget his age. You can't deny that he can easily give you 10, 15 points, even maybe 16, 17, 18 points on some nights off the bench if he's able to. He'll get other guys involved. He'll get a lot of rebounds as well. So in some ways, he does help them. Obviously, I don't want the Denver Nuggets to have Russell Westbrook to finish the game with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray there. That's definitely not ideal. But in terms of just like when you look at the Denver Nuggets roster, it isn't very good. Chris Braun, I think his first name is Chris Braun. Braun is his last name. I know that for sure. But he's going to be an interesting player to keep an eye on. I think he could definitely take a leap this season as well. 6'6", small forward for them. But again, Denver Nuggets will be Denver Nuggets. I don't believe they're going to fall off just because they lost KCP, right? Their roster, again, does look a little bit funky. Number one, no-brainer, OKC. They got Alex Caruso. Chet Holmgren is going to get a year better. SGA's MVP level player. And also they got their center in Isaiah Hartenstein, which is massive for them, right? So it'll be interesting to see how the conferences line up. I'm very curious again. I'm going to go back to the East again, just have a quick look at this. And then I'm going to go to the Western Conference as well. Have a look at this. I know some people will disagree with me putting New Orleans there. Again, I'm saying that because New Orleans is a team that was second in the NBA. Let me reiterate this and repeat this. They were second in the NBA last season on second chance points. What did they do? They really cheaped out and lost their starting center, which is fine. I understand that, but they didn't really replace him. JV would still give you 8 to 10 rebounds a game, right? So losing that is massive, and those second chance points aren't going to help. DeJounte Murray's a nice acquisition. I don't like to see Jim McCollum fit there. So again, let me know your thoughts on these guys. I've changed it up a little bit. Let me know your thoughts on each conference, and if you disagree, let me know what your standings look like. Again, I'm kind of going through a mindset of just what each roster looks like. And I want to go quickly back to the Eastern Conference. I did forget to mention Charlotte Hornets. They also got a really good coach in Charles Lee, former Milwaukee coach. So it'll be nice for them to see what they do with that young roster, to how he really incorporates his philosophy and how he coaches that team. One of the better up and young coming coaches in the NBA as well. So again, that will be it. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you're still watching, guys, hit the subscribe button. That'd be very much appreciated. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.